First up, we have Crematory with Destination. It's astounding how this is the 17th album from this German mainstay, and they somehow still sound as fresh as when it started all the way back in 1993. The album is filled to the brim with sorrow-driven, gothic metal that just has the slightest tinges of industrial in just the right spots. This is the most gothic album the band has put out in quite a while, and I appreciate it for that, but it never loses sight of the industrial aspects that they started incorporating along the way. The songs are catchy, be it more up-tempo or when it gets slower and more broody. If you've never heard Crematory before, but you enjoy the likes of Tiamat, Moonspell, Dark Tranquility, you really need to get into Crematory. And in speaking of a band like Typo Negative, don't skip out on their cover of My Girlfriend's Girlfriend. Nothing can ever compete with the original, but they give it pure justice. This is easily one of the best albums that they've put out, and it's great to see how far they've come in 33 years. Destination is a killer album that is worthy of your attention. Next, we have A Flock Named Murder with Incendiary Sanctum. The sophomore album from this Toronto band combines the best elements of black metal, death metal, and post-rock all rolled into one, and makes it feel so seamless. They know how to channel their inner Agalok and Fen as much as they can their inner Ulcerate and the extreme ends of Inter Arma. The album is only 4 songs, but the shortest one comes in at 13 minutes and 6 seconds, and the longest 17 minutes and 27 seconds, so if you don't like epics, this will not be for you. Thankfully, at least to my ears, the songs go in so many different directions, and it feels so natural, and that hour and 4 minutes just flies by. The production is a bit raw, but it's still punchy and it has a lot of kick to it. The album cover simply rules. This is magnificent work and a stunning display of how to push the boundaries of the more extreme metal genres in ways that feel so natural when it comes into writing more somber post-rock elements. It's not an easy thing to achieve, but when they nail it, they nail it. If this is your style, please give this one a proper shot. Now we have Hate with Bellum Regis. Polish black and death metal feels as natural as Australian prog metal or Canadian tech death at this point, but when it's done right, you'll remember why it's so awesome. That's what Hate does with their 13th album, somehow getting even better with age and more brutal and evil in the process. Hate is putting other bands in the genre to shame with their display of tenacious blackened death metal. The production is on point and the songwriting knows when to let things ride and when to keep things a bit simpler. If you somehow never heard this band but you dig the likes of Behemoth, God Dethroned, and Belphegor, you need to check out Hate. They have been crafting their sound for 29 years now, and it's only gotten better and better. Just check it out for yourself. Now we have Labyrinthus Stellarum with Rift in Reality. One of the best black metal albums of the year is finally upon us with the 3rd album in 3 years from this Ukrainian duo. While only forming back in 2021, the band has vastly improved on every album, and this is easily their best album released to date. They have this astounding way of combining cosmic and atmospheric black metal with a more industrial, electronic, and EDM sound to create a band that sounds like no other in the best way possible. The band has their signature sound intact since the beginning, but every album has come with one vast improvement: the production. This is easily their best sounding album yet, and it just makes everything on display sound incredible. You truly feel like you're trapped in the middle of the universe and are caught in between sheer terror and absolute wonder of the sights in front of you. At 37 minutes and 18 seconds, this couldn't feel like a better album length for this style. I can't say it enough, this is one of the best black metal albums of 2025, as they have nailed genre bending and pushed it to the next level. Despite having this album for quite a bit of time now, it only gets better with every repeat listen. Even if you don't like black metal, there's a good chance that you can fall in love with Labyrinthus Stellarum. Next is Leper Colony with Those of the Morbid. The sophomore album from this all-star old-school death metal band is that classic style of OSDM that just works perfectly, featuring past and present members of Morgoth, Massacre, Consumption, and Paganizer. This is a band that knows how to just be brutal enough without losing any of the melody and harmony that made the late 80s, early 90s death metal scene so memorable. This is Obituary meets old-school death meets Hail Bullets meets Pestilence in all of the best ways. The production is that classic sound, the songwriting is exactly what it needs to be, and it's all performed magnificently. This is how you make what's old new again. If you need that in 2025, you need Leper Colony right now. Now we have Maestric with Espresso della Vita Lunaire. This is the third album from this Brazilian progressive power metal band, and it scratches an itch that desperately needed to be scratched. In what feels like a very unreal mix of the power metal side of Angra meets the prog quirkiness of a band like Haken, Maestric is the definition of progressive power metal. That's why they're so appropriately and hopefully going to be playing Prog Power USA this year, in what I'm sure will be an unreal set, as long as it actually happens, thanks to, those good old visa issues of the US. The music is so dense and rewarding to listen to with every repeated listen. The production is rich and full, and the performances on hand are simply astounding. This is incredible work from a band that knows how to push the boundaries of all the genres that they want to be able to incorporate, while still keeping things very musical. A very rare feat, and one to herald when done right. If you fit into that prog power side of things, you need to get acquainted with Maestric right now. You'll be so glad that you did. Up now we got Nightfall with Children of Eve. This week has been filled with legendary bands with prolific careers, putting out albums, and here is another one from a Greek band that's been around for 33 years. With their 11th album, the latest incarnation of Nightfall features the band's best work to date, hitting so many different genres of symphonic metal, mellow black, gothic death doom, and so much more. But with one key difference, all of it makes sense together. The album flows together so naturally and is performed to some of the best abilities that you'll ever hear all year at a band like this. Whether it is a blast beat assault or going into some dirge-ridden doom, the band hits it all and makes it work effortlessly. This is easily for those who enjoy the likes of Rotting Christ, Septic Flesh, Moonspell, Paradise Lost, and so many more. If you've ever missed out on Nightfall, you need to remedy that immediately, as this is one of the best albums of this style in 2025, and it'll only take one listen to understand why. And finally, for brand new albums out today is the debut album from Paradise Slaves, with the album With Hell in His Eyes. The brand new album from this all-star metalcore band presents past and present members of 36 Crazy Fists, Diecast, and even Pentagram, and it's something that immediately takes me back to 2004 in all of the best ways. It reminds me of why I fell in love with second wave metalcore in the first place, and I discovered all these bands like the aforementioned 36 Crazy Fists and Diecast. It's just that perfect blend of knowing how to hit that hardcore, metalcore, and some of the catchiest choruses that you've heard in this side of heavy music. This is a band that feels very nostalgic. It even feels like it was recorded between 2002 and 2003, but it also hits enough of a modern tinge to make it all make sense in 2025 and not just a nostalgic cash grab. It's for anyone who has enjoyed the 21st century era of metalcore, both old and new. If you want to know why this genre worked in the first place, check out some of the best workhorse musicians of the genre together in Paradise Slaves, putting out one of the best albums of the genre in 2025. And now for all the albums that I missed along the way, starting with the band Afgran with Cosmic Ecstasy. The debut album from this Finnish band took me by complete surprise, mixing the styles of gothic, industrial, rock, and heavy metal all rolled into one horror-tinged package is a catchy and rewarding experience. The band knows when to get heavy, when to focus on the catchier moments, all without losing the intensity that comes from either side of the musical spectrum. The production is so polished, and the songwriting explores so much territory without losing any of the substance. It's instantly catchy and will be an earworm in your head for days, so be prepared for that. It's hard to narrow down similar bands, but if you like moments from musicians like Wednesday 13, Rammstein, In Flames, Lordi, and even Moonspell, you will find something to love about Afgran. Now we have Bloody Valkyria with In Our Home Across the Fog. The sophomore album from this one-man Finnish band is some of the most expansive and audibly pleasing raw metal black that I've heard all year. While the production again is a bit on the raw side, the musicianship and the songwriting on display more than makes up for any shortcomings that you might find with the production. It's so dense and layered with its orchestration and instrumentation, all while being able to pick out any of the sounds that you're looking for in the process. It's a mystifying album that hits all of the right moments that you're looking for. It feels like a mix of third wave black metal meets mellow black meets symphonic black metal all rolled into one raw underground package. While this won't be for everyone, if you enjoy this style, you'll be hard pressed to find anything that sounds more earnest in 2025. And if you don't mind a raw production, this is a mellow black album made for you. And now we have the self-titled debut from Changeling. Fountainhead returns with a new project that is, well, everything that Obscura fans have wanted for a long, long time. It's the perfect balance of how to write a progressive and technical death metal album, all while adding enough nuance and substance into every track. It feels otherworldly and demonic, as it is angelic and beautiful in just the right moments. The leads on this album absolutely sell the album, and they're utterly insane, and are done in such a way that'll make your jaw drop. I know it did the first time that I heard it. The production on this album is top notch, and the songwriting and musicianship are everything that you'd expect from a band featuring past and present members of Obscura, Alkaloid, Fear Factory, and Vipassy. Simply put, if you want an extreme display of how to create beautiful and brutal progressive tech death with 100% not stolen riffs, you need to check out Changeling. Now we have Ghost with Skeletor. It will always astound me when a band gets so popular in fact, that it becomes a punching bag for simply existing in a year like 2025. And in a year, 2025, no one's forcing you to listen to said band. Unless Ghost is blasting in your ears every day at your place of work, maybe your kids are blasting Ghost all the time, etc. There's literally no one forcing you to listen to them. And it's baffling to me that people hold such hatred for a band that is simply just trying to have fun. This is Skeletor in a nutshell. It is a more guitar-centric Ghost album that does have its fair share of poppier and catchier moments, but there are plenty of heavy riffs, double bass, and some classic heavy metal stuff going on. Of course, that will not be enough for those that hate them. I wouldn't expect it to, and this will not be an album that will make you go from a hater to a fan. Why would it? This is a band that is still going forward into their sound and starting as a more 70s occult rock band, and now really hitting that mid to late 80s and 90s AOR sound, and just really writing catchy songs that no matter how heavy or mainstream you like your music, you might be able to find something to appreciate. I can hear as many moments of bands like Rush as I do Faith No More on this, along with that AOR sound, which is a cool thing to see. The production feels like an album that was made in 1987, and I wouldn't want it any other way. Look, Ghost is a gimmick band that found a niche, and they capitalized it on a way that has made them one of the most popular bands in the current world of rock and metal music. If you are reading this, I'm pretty sure you can't say the same thing. If you're listening to this, I'm pretty sure it's the same thing as well. If you hate them, continue to do so. But also remember, your misery from hating them is self-inflicted. You allowed them to live in your head, rent-free, when you could have just easily listened to what you want. It's not their fault, it's yours. So calm down and move on. For the rest of us, this is one of the best Ghost albums to date, and I can't wait to see what the next chapter has in store. Now we have Heavylution with The Cycle. It may have taken a decade for the sophomore album from this French band to see the light of day, but it was more than worth the wait. With a wicked sense of heavy metal, power metal, the occasional AOR tendencies, and additional twists and turns, Heavylution has taken their sound to the next level. The songs are so catchy, and the songwriting on display for it all is exactly what the tracks need to be. Whether it gets a little dark or a little less dark, everything here is emotional, and it leads you on an incredible journey from start to finish. While it is not the cheeriest album in the slightest, at least it's a great soundtrack to our potential demise. Heavylution knocked it out of the park with The Cycle, and I hope for the next album, The Cycle will continue, although hopefully a little sooner than a decade from now. Also sorry for the pun. Now we have Karg with Marauder. Was the latest Harakiri for the Sky album not enough heartache for you? Well, it continues with the latest Karg album. JJ from Harakiri's 9th album is a sheer tearjerker of an album, and while I don't speak German, I don't need to know every word to know that this album will crush your soul just from the vocal delivery alone. The music also features more melody and harmony than you would get from a Harakiri album, in a way that's a little more, what's the right word? Uplifting? No, that's not it. Cathartic? Well, I think that's true of both bands. Let's just say less sad? Yeah, that's the best way I can give it. A little less sad. Don't get me wrong, this will make you tear up if you let it. I know that new Harakiri did, but it's also just so beautiful in its delivery, and it just might even mask some of the pain inside because of that beauty. The production is some of the best that a Karg album has had to date, and if you want a great pairing with that new Harakiri album, but you want it to just be different enough, you need to check out Karg immediately. It's what you need in sad, depressing music. Now we have Promised Downfall with Catharsis. The debut album from this German act is some stellar metalcore. It hits all the right elements of metalcore from its heaviest moments to the excellent and contagious sing-along choruses. The band delivers songs for everyone in this modern rock, modern metal world. The production is polished and pristine, and the songwriting has zero fads. It's just lean and mean, and it's exactly what every song is called for. Whether you're more into Periphery, I Prevail, Set Your Sails, or even Asking Alexandria, at least the older stuff anyways, you will find something to enjoy here with Promised Downfall. The album is more than lives up to its title. It's a rough listen, especially lyrically, but it couldn't be more cathartic. Yeah, sorry for the pun. Now we have 7th with Pink Noise Youth, and I'll just say right off the bat, I really am not a fan of bands taking out the vowels in their names, just say 7th. But the 4th album from this Italian post-black band is what makes the genre so exciting. A band that knows how to focus on both sides of the post-black genre, meaning black metal and post-rock. This is as much on the dark side of things as it is the lighter side of post-rock, and it keeps everything in perfect balance, never going too far into one direction or the other. I can hear as much from bands like Violet Cold as I do Agalloch, as I do Pelican, as I do Junius. It's a rewarding listen for anyone who enjoys both sides of the genre and wants to hear them more explored. The production is not too raw yet not too clean, just right in the middle, which seems to be a trend with this band. As the songwriting can be elongated at times, it is called for in the music. I mean, that's what post-rock is all about. This is the kind of music I can relax to and go through all kinds of different musical emotions. I simply love what's going on here, and I hope that this album and the direction the band continues to explore here will continue going forward. Balancing both sides is not easy, but as a listener, it is so effective. And maybe add some ease into your name. Now we have Stellar Veil with Calling the Hearts of the World. The debut album from this Greek band is everything that AOR has to offer and more. From the soaring vocals, to the exceptional guitar riffs and solos, to some of the finest songwriting the genre has seen in the 21st century. The band has learned from their elder AOR bands and took what works from the best of them to create an album that doesn't just hit hard musically, but lyrically as well. It never gets too heavy musically or emotionally, but it never gets too poppy lyrically or emotionally either. It balances that fine line in making both sides of the line very happy. Simply put, if you love AOR, you will love Stellar Veil. It's just what you needed in 2025. Now we have Tribunal with In Penitence and Ruin. The sophomore album from this BC band hits me like a slow, brooding sucker punch to the soul. I completely missed the boat on their debut album back in 2023 before I was able to cover it, and I regretted it ever since. So I had to make sure that I caught this one at a reasonable time because I didn't get the promo, as it's not only a worthy successor to their debut album, but it's one of the finest examples of gothic doom in the 2020s so far. It's that perfect blend of dark, soul-crushing, depressing, and just a tad bit whimsical style of gothic doom. It gives you everything from bands like My Dying Bride, to Draconian, to even Theater of Tragedy, or even Shape of Despair. I can't even begin to describe how effective their sound is in a short style video like this, but I can say that with how this is done, even the most apprehensive person towards doom can find something to love about this one. It never hits that funeral doom style, it never gets into the hymn style goth rock, it's right in the middle with that sweet Peaceville 3 sound that I wouldn't want any other way. This is magnificent work that is going to be one of my top doom albums of 2025. This is my kind of doom through and through, and once you know it, it may be for you as well. Up now is one of my most anticipated albums of 2025, and it totally delivers. The sophomore album from Venator, known as Psychodrome. Their sophomore album is something that I've been waiting to hear for a long time, basically ever since their debut album came out, and I'm so happy it's finally here. With the Austrian band's second album, it is a bit more rockin' than it is like straight up metal. It fits their sound. I mean, don't get me wrong, if you love the debut album, everything you loved about that album is here. It has that revival metal sound down to its core, but this feels a little catchier. It hits a little more on the hard rock side of things at times, and it's just a great thing to see that the band is not putting out the same album twice. The production still has that mid to late 80s sound. It really has that underground vibe to it all, and the songwriting is just so lean and mean. If you enjoy the likes of Haunt, Savage Master, Portrait, or Night Demon, Venator is a band that you need in your collection as soon as you can. This is how it's done, folks. And finally, for brand new albums that I've missed along the way, is Visionatica with Harrowing Insight. Can I just say off the bat how nice it is to hear a symphonic metal band that still has symphonics in their sound and didn't trade all of it away for the modern metal sound? I mean, sure, there's some modern stuff going on here, there's some electronics and industrial stuff going on, but it still has the symphonics, and you can't take that for granted in 2025. Not anymore. But the third album from this German band is that perfect blend of symphonic, pop, metal, hard rock, electronic, and other otherworldly moments that feels just so catchy and authentic. The production is not overly polished, but it hits so hard with its punchiness and clarity. The songwriting never drags, and it always takes you on this great journey through all of its dark, twisted tales on display. This is easily for those who enjoy the likes of Visions of Atlantis and the older albums of bands like Delane and Within Temptation, but just a little darker, more horror-ish, a little more spooky. If that's what you're looking for, Visionatica is a band that you need in your life. Get prepared for the ride. First up, we have Behemoth with The Shit of God. Behemoth returns with their 13th album, which also celebrates 30 years since their debut album 17th, Storming Near the Baltic. The band has gone through quite the transition over the past 3 decades, from super raw black metal to some of the best produced black and death metal that you can find. When you think of black and death metal, Behemoth is almost always the first band you think of, and the new album almost feels like a return to form for it. The last couple of albums have been more whimsical and theatrical compared to their prior work, and Nurgle and company have brought back elements of the band that people have loved, finally, with this new album. It's 8 tracks and almost 38 minutes of Behemoth at their best, easily, since The Satanist. Don't get me wrong, there are still some more theatrical moments that happen here and there throughout, but they have taken a massive backseat compared to the punishing brutality of what Behemoth delivers best. The production is outstanding, the songwriting is so lean and mean, no songs over the 5-minute and 55 mark, and just pure, unadulterated chaos. The title track alone shows that Nurgle still has his style of expression, and many people will call that try-hard or pretentious, but I defy you to find a satanic band that isn't doing both of those things, and even more so. Simply put, this is the best Behemoth album in at least a decade, and it reminds you why Behemoth has become the established and profound band that they are. The fire has been lit under the band once again, and why it might smell like... oh, come on, you know where I'm going with this. Behemoth is through and through one of the best black and death metal bands, and I wouldn't want it any other way. Next we have Chanteris with Phantom of Reality. 3 albums into this Norwegian progressive and heavy metal band is easily some of their best work, and it's not even close. They have learned what works best for the band and continue refining everything to be exactly what it needs to be. Musically, I hear a lot of what I love about bands like Nevermore and The More, but vocally, it's much more aggressive and adds a lot of intensity from bands like Accept and Creator. Just picturing a band that sounds like a mix of progressive, heavy metal, black metal, and industrial, all thrown into one is no easy feat, but the band is not afraid to write what they want to write, and they make it so very catchy. This is some killer stuff, and if you want a band that can appeal to so many genres while staying true to themselves, make sure to check out Chanteris. And now we have Death SS with The Entity. This is a band that's been around for 48 years, and on their 11th album, they sound fresher or really more undead than ever before. With 3/5 of a new lineup on this album, the band feels quite inspired, and you can hear that from beginning to end. This feels like an album the way that it used to matter, where the track listing is important, where it's not just a collection of songs, this is an album experience. The production feels like a remix and remaster of an album that came out in the mid-80s, in the best way possible. It's just raw enough, but it still sounds clear, giving everything an eerie feeling that you just can't replicate in any other way. Whether you grew up on horror rock and metal from the likes of Alice Cooper or Arthur Brown, or you just heard about this band from the likes of Deathless Legacy, who put out their latest album just a little bit ago this year, the genre is alive. Well, I mean, undead and well, and it's a fantastic thing to see. This is a spectacular album for anyone who likes their music rockin' and on the haunting side of things. Give this one a proper listen to see how the genre is done. Now we have Exilium Noctis with Pactum Diaboli. You didn't think Behemoth was the only band putting out some black and death metal today, did you? Well, they have some stiff competition from this great band coming in with their sophomore album. The band is much more on the blackened side of things, and it works to their advantage. While there is just enough death metal in their sound to satisfy those that are looking for it, everything from the production to the guitar tones to the vocal stylings is so much more raw and blackened. So much so, it might even have salmonella. But seriously, the production is great, and the band benefits the music on hand. The songwriting on display is pummeling, and it does not let up long enough for you to be able to catch your breath. This is an excellent display of black and death metal with just enough aspects of other genres, and the occasional haunting keyboards to draw you in and leave you wanting more when it's done. If you want a different take on satanic black and death metal that comes out today, check out Exilium Noctis. Now we have Ghostbath with Thorn Rose Necklace. Ghostbath is one of the most polarizing black metal bands currently running today, and it's for good and bad reasons. I think people need to let go of the fact that they trolled everyone when they first started off by saying they were from China. Nameless resided in North Dakota at the time, and also the band is known for their life lover style black metal vocals from time to time, which is not everyone's bag. All of that said, I define you to find another band that is this earnest in this style of depressive suicidal black metal, post-black, that continuously improves on every single album the way that Ghostbath has accomplished to this date. With the 5th album, the band has the most mature songwriting they've had to date. Also with the shortest album that they've done to date with 9 songs in just a little over 35 minutes, a far cry from the well over hour-long albums that they started off with. This album, while sucker punching you with its dark, and I do mean dark lyrics, it just flies by, and you realize that this is their catchiest album to date as well. Seeing what the band has accomplished here is outstanding, and it's great to see this style getting some great representation with a band that tours and produces music as much as this band does. The production is easily their best to date, and everyone recording on here is putting on a brilliant display of musicianship. If you want to see what this more raw approach to post-black, or overly produced DSBM, depending on how you want to look at it, check out Ghostbath. Here we have La Cabra with their self-titled debut, and this album is quite the adventure. Hailing from Seattle, this is a progressive death metal band that really does wear its influences on their sleeves in the best of ways. I can hear as much Nevermore as I do Arch Enemy as I do Goatwhore. They are a band with a core sound, but they're not afraid to expand upon that sound when necessary. The production is perfect for this style, and the songwriting is exactly what it needs to be effective. This is a band I can see going very far if the right people hear them, and that's a big reason why I do what I do. I want this band to be heard. This is a band that's more than worthy of your time if you are any kind of a metal fan. No matter your taste, there is something here for you. It's heavy, aggressive, and so catchy in the right spots. This is how you make a band stand out while still sounding familiar. Seriously, if you want to hear a band that gets aggressive and melodic in this style of metal, give La Cabra a proper spin. Here we have Ominous Ruin with Requiem. This San Francisco quintet is back with their sophomore album, and it's some of the catchiest brutal tech death I've come across in a long time. Of course, this album is relentless, and it pummels you into the ground song after song, but it's done in such an earnest way that knows how to show off their technicality, when to write just a really punishing riff, and when to write a riff that will be stuck in your head for days, something I wish more bands in this style would be able to pull off. This is easily for those who enjoy the likes of Archspire, Inanimate Existence, and Cytotoxin, all while having their own flair to it all. The production is crisp and punchy, the songwriting hits you like a ton of bricks. This is my kind of brutal tech death. If you want something in this style that sounds memorable, Ominous Ruin has delivered with Requiem. And finally, for brand new albums out today, we have a Finnish band that I hope I get the name right of, and especially that album title, Svarta Havet with Mannen ska Lysa den Vaj. This is the sophomore album from this Finnish band that combines the intensity of black metal with the emotional side of post-hardcore. They are not the first to try this, but they may be the band that has perfected this sound. While I don't speak Finnish, and I can't say I know the lyrics, but I do appreciate how supportive they are of anti-fascist, feminist, trans, and queer politics. They're all on the right side of history, and they have 100% support from my end. Especially in a genre that has black metal tendencies, and a history of musicians that, well, let's say have the polar opposite view. I love that there is a band like this that is not afraid to write the music that they want to write about what they want to write about, and support who they want to support. You mix all together with a raw yet clear production style that hits you so hard, and you have a band that should be on your radar if you like the likes of Mole, Benza, and Obsidian Tongue, amongst others. Black and metal with a message is something I can get behind. Sign me up. And now for new albums that I haven't gotten to yet, we have Alzagoth with Ad Finem. The debut album from this Finnish band takes everything that works with this legendary style of Finnish melodeath and makes it their own. With an early 2000s production style, this feels like the early days of Children of Bodom, Winter Sun, and that middle sweet era of Demi Borgir. Well, musically anyways, all rolled into one. The songs are so catchy and memorable, with keyboards that are sure to be stuck in your head for days, and a familiar style but done with such an authenticity authenticity behind it that it just needs to be heard to be understood. 8 songs and a little over 38 minutes is a perfect length for what this band is going for, and will still leave you wanting more. I can't wait to see where this band goes from here, because if this is just their debut album, their best is yet to come. Check this one out as soon as you can. Next, we have Enuma with Flesh and Bone. The third album from the Spanish outfit is ridiculously catchy, and it just gets better and better with every repeat listen. This band has perfected their sound to create this style of melodeath with just enough metalcore tendencies to stand out from the crowd and give themselves a familiar yet unique sound. The production is very much in that mid-2000s style that is raw but powerful, and the songwriting is lean and mean with solos that rival some of the best solos done in recent times. This feels like the perfect counterbalance to the brand new album from Heathen Heretic, and if you're looking for something of that style, I think this band will be right up your alley. So if you want some of that catchy yet aggressive melodeath, check out Enuma. Here we have Brave Ride with The Great Awakening. Brave Ride's return with their 4th album in 19 years is the kind of epic power metal that we need right now, and it's all about that quality over quantity. It's over the top, heavy, and so catchy. It reminds you why this genre of music has always ruled. And this Greek band just shows all of that off in the best of ways. When they put out an album, it is the best that they can offer at the time, and this album is no different. The production is that right balance of raw and pristine. The songwriting is just grandiose and just filled with so many great catchy moments on top of all of that. If you love the genre, it fits like a glove. This is for anyone who enjoys the likes of Rhapsody, Darkmoor, Warlord, and so many others in the genre. Just let this album spin and take you away, and in 2025, that couldn't be more needed. Next up, we have Hagain with Top of the Tower. This Japanese band's sophomore album is easily some of the catchiest and most emotionally driven melodic power metal that I've heard in a long time. Granted, I don't speak Japanese, so I don't know the lyrical meanings, but the way that they are sung is simply incredible and hits you right in the feels. This is a band that I feel like should be on anyone's radar if you enjoy the likes of power metal bands like Love Bites, to Brideer, to even English-speaking bands like Borealis and Vanishing Point. The production is stellar, and the songwriting, again, is just so emotional and it hits you hard. This is beautiful, melodic power metal done right. And if you need that right now, and who couldn't, you need to check out Hagain. Next we have Korra with Ananke. Although I will say this is a refreshing change of pace. A band that can combine the best elements of someone like Isan and mix it in with a band like Arcturus or Borknagar, and somehow knows how to let that full black metal extremes happen in bands like Emperor and Dissection. Roll that into one and you have Korra. This is a band that has been pushing the boundaries of what can be done in this style of black metal in all of the best ways since their debut album a few years ago. They are continuing with the sound that they've crafted off that album, and they know it works, but they still know how to innovate in the process. The production is exactly what is needed for this style, and the songwriting is just simply inspired. This is for those that really enjoy the experimental, proggy, avant-garde, and just bonkers moments of black metal, and it's a beautiful thing to see. If you want to see what Arcturus would sound like if Isan joined ICS Vortex and company, you need Korra. Up now is Mentalist with Earthbreaker. This German and Swedish band has released their 4th album, and it is, without question, their best album to date. It's everything that has made the band work since 2020, but they have perfected it just enough to still have some edge to it all. The production is so punchy and it hits hard, while the music on display is that right kind of melodic power metal that can be heavy, yet still have those melodies that still make you feel something. This is a band that should be on any power metal fan's radar if they aren't already, as they are putting out some of the best in this style in the 2020s. And somehow, even after 4 albums in 5 years, the band is showing no signs of burnout. This is easily some of the best of the genre, and if you don't believe me, all you have to do is check it out for yourself. This is how you make melodic power metal your own. Now we have Neopra with Eternal Source. Finally returning with their sophomore album after 11 years is this German band, and they prove it's all about quality, not quantity. With an almost entirely new lineup and 8 members of the band at that, the band takes the best of symphonic metal, adds the right amount of death metal edge to it all, and of course those gothic overtones to create a sound that is tailor-made for those who love early day Epica, middle to latter day Therion, and of course Leaves'. And on top of it all, a band that wants to write this grandiose style of music that is filled to the brim with sophistication, and you have one of the best symphonic gothic metal albums of 2025. The performances are beyond stellar, and the production is just what it needs to be effective. I am always for symphonic bands that don't want to lose their sound to be more modern, and Neopra is a shining example of what can still be done in this style. Seriously, if you are a symphonic metal band, you need this album and band in your life. Next, we have Ocean Grave with a bouquet of words forlorn. 3 albums since 2021 for this one-man Italian death doom band, and it only improves from album to album. The songs are so filled with sorrow and heartache, while feeling this sense of catharsis that's hard to explain unless you are a death doom fan. This is easily made for the likes of November's Doom, October Tide, Woods of Ypres, and more. This is the kind of album you just can't fake. The pain on here is real, and you can hear it in every vocal line, guitar tone, and drum hit. The production is perfect for this style, taking you on this downward spiral of emotions that you don't want to leave. Simply put, if you love death doom, you need the new Ocean Grave in your life. It's deep, dense, and full of sorrow. In other words, it's exactly what you need. Here we have Propagandhi with At Peace. Propagandhi has always been a polarizing band, not just because of their unique blend of melodic hardcore, thrash metal, heavy metal, punk, and so much more mixed together, but because of their social commentary and political standpoints, stuff that I'm pretty much 100% behind. That's all the more reason I'm covering them on their 8th album, At Peace. Everything that you love, or hate if you're of that persuasion, is here on full display, and it couldn't be a more appropriate album for the world that we live in 2025. All you have to do is look at their album cover, and it's a battle on display of everything that's going on right now. Also, just listen to the title track and you'll get a good sense of what this album is hinting at this time around. Every time I listen to this album, it just hits me harder and harder, but it also gives me a little bit of hope as well. Maybe not everyone in the world has gone to the dark side, and if we join together, maybe something still can be done. Maybe it's a far-fetched dream, but we need those far-fetched dreams more now than ever. The music is spectacular and the production is just raw enough without losing any punch and power. This is required listening if you are of the left-leaning political persuasion, and I dare say, even if you're on the far right, you still might need to check this one out as well, just for a different change of pace. And you know what? It just might do you some good. Now we have Pyres with Yun. The sophomore album from this Toronto band is quite the experience to behold. It takes the best of progressive, sludge, hard rock, and more to create a sound that feels authentic in how it's performed. You can hear elements of bands like Mastodon, Baroness, Mammoth Black, Red Fang, and even The Sword, well, musically anyways, throughout the album, and it feels so natural, and it's exactly what the music calls for. The production is perfect for the style, the songwriting, while going on many different ventures, all makes sense when you listen to the album as a whole. This is an excellent display of pushing the boundaries of what progressive sludge metal can be, all while finding elements of the past that bring it in for the uninitiated. This is a stellar release for the genre, and if you haven't checked out Pyres before, you owe them a shot if you enjoy this style. Next, we have Woe Bather with Swallowed by the Chains of Spirit Loss. Simply put, this is some of the best black metal I've heard all year so far. This is everything I love about the genre, put into one over-the-top grandiose package. 7 songs, 70 minutes and change, pure epic black metal. This is Keep of Calcian if you take out the symphonics. This is Spectral Wound with better production and epic song length. The songs, while long, still have some of the most memorable riffs that you'll hear in black metal all year, guaranteed. The vocals are blood-curdling in the best way, and the overall atmosphere of the album is what it needs to be for this style. If you want sad, powerful, and intense black metal, look no further than Woe Bather. I can't fathom what will top it for this style of black metal in 2025, at least to my ears. And finally, for brand new albums that I missed, is Your Spirit Dies, with My Gnawing Pains Will Never Rest. And wow, what an apt description of my life in 2025. This is one of the best displays of how heavy metalcore can be done in the 2020s. The fact this band can go from the outer reaches of the most melodic hardcore and metalcore to moments that rival the heaviest deathcore bands in its breakdowns in terms of intensity, to everything in between all of that, all while not sounding like a hodgepodge of sound, is something to truly appreciate. Every song on here has its own flair, but it all works together seamlessly as you listen from beginning to end. You will hear everything from Unearthed to Carnifex to Darkest Hour, and so much more here on display. All while the band adds their own spices to the music to make everything truly their own. The production reminds me of that mid to late 2000s metalcore scene in the best ways. This is a band that is pushing the envelope of what can be done in this genre, and is doing so in a way that I hope will inspire bands for generations to come. Seriously, if you are a metalcore fan of any style, you need to check out Your Spirit Dies to see how this genre should be done in 2025. First up, we have Buried Tomorrow with You Will Haunt Me with That Same Patience. The 8th album from this UK band is my first real exposure to the band despite knowing of the band for quite a long time, but I really am loving what I'm hearing. It feels like this perfect balance of second wave metalcore, modern metal, and other elements thrown in for good measure to create a sound that is just as catchy and poppy as it is heavy. You can hear a lot of 2010s influence from bands like Parkway Drive's Ladder Material, the metal era of Architects, and even some early day Miss May I in just the right spots. This is not Funeral Doom or death grind bands that you would expect on my list, but this is a great slice of what metalcore can be in the 2020s. With pristine production and super catchy songwriting, it has a little bit of something for everybody, from the heaviest of deathcore breakdowns from the poppiest electronic parts to everything in between. And if you're wanting something like this in your metalcore, I think you should give this one a proper shot. Now we have Drouth with The Teeth of Time, 3 albums into this Portland black and death metal band's career, and it feels like the band just continues to grow, explore, and find their niche. With their latest release, it feels like the band is exploring more of the black gaze sound and using it to their advantage. Don't get me wrong, the death metal elements are still here, but they're done in such a way where it feels more like a spice rather than the main flavor. The black inside is on full force, but hearing those elements of bands like Garia and some more of the atmospheric moments of even a band like the Great Old Ones and the more extreme ends, it's a punishing mix and it truly works to their advantage. The production is raw and the mix is a bit muffled, but it's more than warranted and really fits the style. The songwriting can go all over, but the more you listen to it, the more it unlocks and the more it makes sense. This is an album not for the faint of heart, but if you dig the extreme ends of black metal and you want just enough melody and harmony to get you through, then you need to check out what Drouth has to offer in 2025. Now we have Giant with Stand and Deliver. It's astounding how this legendary Nashville AOR band has only put out 6 albums in the past 36 years, but they prove that it's all about the quality, not the quantity. This 6th album from Giant is an excellent display of that classic AOR melodic rock sound that feels as authentic in 2025 as it would have back in 1989. It's a great thing to see when a band that's been around for nearly 4 decades can still put out some of their best material, and it sounds like the music that they've wanted to create. We all know that's not true of every band of this era. The production feels like a more updated 80s sound, and the songwriting is that classic sound from start to finish, with the occasional modern twinge that just feels natural. This is just a stunning display of how to do this style right, and a true crash course on how it's done in today's age. Giant has done it once again, and if you enjoy this time period and you enjoy AOR, you need Giant, and especially this brand new album, Stand and Deliver. Here we have Novelist with Coda. The 4th album from this French outfit finds the band making their catchiest album to date, but it is exactly what they should be striving to achieve. This is what should be on modern rock radio here in the States. This couldn't be more appropriate and should be demanded by anyone who still listens to that. But the band never truly loses that progressive metalcore sound that they started off with, and it still hits just as hard as they ever have. But there are so many moments on this album that I could see the average radio listener enjoying, and maybe even discovering heavier and proggy music because of it all. With stellar production and some of the catchy songwriting this side of Prague, this is what bands who want to break into the mainstream should try to accomplish going forward. Seriously, this has everything. Signed, sealed, and delivered to those who want radio-friendly, heavy, and even proggy music. They have it all, and if you want that, this should be in your ears. Now we have Prydian with Ventian Dark. The debut album from this Estonian modern metalcore band hits heavy into the current trend of industrial-infused metalcore that has taken over the 2020s, that is equal parts heavy and just the right amount of melodies and harmonies on top of that. They hit this nuanced mix of bands like Architects and Spirit Box, but they make it their own with their own unique way of songwriting that hits the catchiest moments in ways that you don't normally see coming, all while maintaining this very heavy sound, especially for a debut album, well, under this name anyway. The band has an excellent style of production at play, and the songwriting is endlessly catchy once it sinks into you. This is a band that I could see making the waves in a huge way starting today, and I really hope that they do. For anyone who enjoys the modern metalcore sound of the 2020s, this should be required listening. Help push the band into the stratosphere in this genre the way that they deserve to be. Now we have Slow Fall with Blood Eclipse. The band's 3rd album sees the band finding more and more of their own sound and creating something that hits so very, very hard. Of course, Finland is one of the leading nations when it comes to melodeath, so to stand out, you have to do something that's going to raise people's attention. And that's exactly what this band is striving to achieve with Blood Eclipse. The band is taking the best of their signature style of melodeath, but adding more and more elements to it all, including some really proggy elements, more consumer-friendly elements, and a wicked sense of songwriting that couldn't be more effective. It's amazing how I can hear bands like Hinayana as much as I do Nailed to Obscurity, but then also hear these Jordan Rudess style keyboard leads that feel like they come out of nowhere but couldn't be more appropriate. Add a killer production style and no two songs sounding the same, and you have one of the most rewarding melodeath experiences of 2025. This is how you push the boundaries of what a genre like melodeath can be, while still being endlessly catchy and memorable. What a spectacular release. And finally, for brand new albums out today, we have Wounded Touch, with a vivid depiction of collapse. The sophomore album from this Michigan outfit feels so much like a 2006 mathcore metalcore album as it does the 2025 mathcore or metalcore one. It hits everything about these genres as they truly started to expand, hitting elements from bands like Norma Jean, The Number 12 Looks Like You, The Dillinger Escape Plan, and I do mean of that time period when the bands were very much finding their own styles. And they also started exploring more with melodies, harmonies, and genre bending to where you never knew what the next song was going to entail. You mix that with a classic yet punchy production style, and you have an album that is just as much of a throwback as it is a forward-thinking album that explores the musicality of the 2020s in a very nuanced but expertly made way. Blending the past, present, and potentially the future into one is a fantastic thing to see, and if you want that in your chaotic mathcore music, check out Wounded Touch. And now for the albums that I missed along the way, starting with a band name I hope I'm getting right, A Cavil with Invictus. 3 albums deep into this French melodeath band's career, and without question, it's their best work. From the endlessly catchy riffs and leads to some powerful growls that would make Angela Glasgow blush in envy, to the style of melodeath that hits everything that you expect in so many places that you never would have imagined. It's an album that is completely inspired, and it hits you right in the gut every time. While it does hit some very dark subject matter, a song title like Daddy Defiled Me pretty much gives that away, it still feels almost sing-along-ish at times, which feels such like a paradox, but when you hear it, you'll understand what I mean. The production is punchy and clean, and again, the songwriting and performances is what truly sells this album. This is a phenomenal album that is more than worthy of your time. It's dark, heavy, catchy, and will be stuck in your head for days. If you enjoy heavy music, isn't that exactly what you want? Give this one a proper listen if you dig melodeath. I can't imagine you'll be disappointed. Now we have Black Map with Hex. The 4th album from the San Francisco outfit sees the band putting out their best output to date. It sees the band continuing to expand their horizons as well. Sometimes it gets nice and heavy, sometimes it gets near post-rock territory, and of course it explores that sweet, sweet middle ground that gets ever so nice and rockin'. The band, while never hitting it in that white-hot spot in the radio charts, has been a reliable underground band that continues to put out the music that radio rock bands should be clamoring for. They know exactly what they're doing to be able to hit the music that will be stuck in your head for days, but doesn't sound particularly like any band that you can place. That is the best kind of earworm. The production is exactly what it needs to be, and the performances on display are expertly played, while never feeling any need to show off. This is exactly what you need if you want to know what should be on modern rock radio. Black Map have ruled for 4 albums now, and I hope there's no sign of slowing down, though I could really use a new Dredge album anytime now. It's been 14 years strong. That's much too long. Here we have Blade's Edge with The Fate's Key. The debut album from this Ecuadorian one-man band is spellbinding. The fact that the one-man, Sage Zavage, is 28 years old and has made an album that couldn't have been more authentically 80s completely makes your jaw drop to the ground. Everything that you love about the past and present bands like Dokken, Crazy Licks, White Lion, and Saber are here on full display, and it just keeps getting better and better every time you listen to it. The production, again, is pure 80s, and the songwriting feels like it's the best from 1986, and you haven't heard it until now. It's explosive, catchy, wild, and exactly what this style should be in every way. I haven't felt this way about a revival metal album since Skullfist Chasing the Dream back in 2014. Seriously, this is the 80s album of 2025. Here we have Cave Sermon with Fragile Wings. The 3rd album from this Australian one-man band is truly an incredible thing to see. Charlie Parks doing everything on this album is quite the sight to behold, from the raw and effective production style to his dark and aggressive vocals on display, to the musicianship that holds this eclectic style of post-metal in high regard. This is someone who has a vision of what he wants to accomplish and nailed it from beginning to end. Doing everything on his own this go-around, Parks has improved on everything that he has done from his first songs and has created some hauntingly dark and ferocious music that is just as much for fans of bands like ISIS to even bands like Tomorrow. Again, this is an eclectic album and it won't be for everybody, but if you love this genre bending of post-metal and want to see what is possible in 2025 with it, you need to see what Cave Sermon is all about. Here we have The Fall of Me with Bathory. The debut album from this Pennsylvania band is not at all what I expected, and I mean that in the best of ways. This is another band that should be plastered all over modern hard rock radio with their sense of heavy enough hard rock and super dark subject matter. I mean, when you're talking about Countess Bathory, I think that kind of gives it away, doesn't it? The production shows off everyone in a way that feels so clean. The songwriting can hit as much of the classic metal sound as it does modern hard rock, all with natural ease. This is the kind of album that makes you want to hear more of this style, and I hope The Fall of Me continues to go down this path and sees all that is possible with it. It can be so easy to chase trends and be a copycat band. This is the antithesis of all of that. This is authentic rock and metal with a gothic tinge that I hope others will be able to discover, play, demand, and be inspired by for years to come. We need a band like The Fall of Me in the zeitgeist. Do the right thing. Make it happen. Here we have Fire Phoenix with Science Fiction. The sophomore album from this German band is everything that you love about heavy metal all rolled into one package. It can get as cheesy as 80 hair bands, it can get as blazing fast as any power metal band, and it hits those soaring vocals, shredding guitars, and excellent songwriting that you'd want to hear from any band in this style. Production-wise, it sounds modern, but the tones on display still give it this kind of vintage feel. No matter your love of non-harsh vocal metal or clean vocals, from the likes of Priest, Maiden, Dragon Force, Halloween, Enforcer, etc., you're bound to find something to love here. 10 songs, 41 minutes of pure, unadulterated metal. You couldn't ask for anything more. Next, we have Folkstone with Natura Morta. 8 albums into this Italian folk metal band's career, and they're still making incredible work 21 years after their initial start, with a short break in between. This is the first album back from said break, and it truly did the band some good. This 9-piece, that's right, 9-piece band is playing their hearts out on this one, and everyone has their part to play. From the standard metal instrumentation to the folk instrumentation that you'd expect in this style, to the occasional twists and turns, the band continues to show how folk metal can be done and still finds a way to make it fresh and authentic. The production is a bit raw, but it also works in the music's advantage. While the music is sung in Italian, you don't need to understand the language to understand the power and emotion that's going on in the music at hand. This is some outstanding work from a band that deserves all the love that they can get in the genre. If you miss folk metal, and I mean true folk metal, give this one a proper listen with the latest from Folkstone. Next up is a band name that I really hope I'm pronouncing right, Hethemeth, with Telluric in Harmonies. The sophomore album from this Romanian band has absolutely no boundaries, and I love them for it. They can go from folky to progressive to gothic to avant-garde to symphonic, all rolled into one. It takes the best of all these styles and makes its stamp of approval over all of it, and it makes for an album that is an experience like no other. It's quite hard to pinpoint the true way to describe their sound using examples, but imagine a mix of Vulture Industries, Arion, and Therion, and you might start getting an idea. It's just the kind of band where you need to have an eclectic taste of a vast variety of clean vocal metal styles, and you just may have found a new band that you'll be obsessed with. I truly love what's going on here, even if I don't speak the language. I love the emotions that are packed within it. This is an incredible display of making music that you want to make, and if you want to see what can be done with this symphonic, progressive, gothic, and avant-garde style of music, check this one out right now. Now we have Jade with Mysteries of a Flowery Dream. The second album from this Spanish band is quite the experience to behold. It hits so many layers of black metal and death metal with a nice healthy dose of atmospheric elements mixed in with some post elements as well. And the most shocking part of all of it is a good mix of clean vocals in just the right spots. Don't get me wrong, there's plenty of growls and screams on this one, but it's the cleans that sets this apart from the rest. It reminds me a lot if Deadly Carnage would have kept their black metal side and started incorporating some atmospheric death metal into their sound. You add all of that together and you have a band that stands out among the rest. The production is in full force of this style and just raw enough for effect. Yeah, this is an album that you should not skip out on if you want one of them, and if you want an album that feels like a haunting display of nightmares, but it lures you in with its musical wonder. It gets better on every listen and you discover more and more of what's going on. If you give it a chance, it just might do the same for you. Next, we have Lost Souls with Lore. The debut album from this Australian metalcore band has taken me by complete surprise. Of course, there is much of the typical metalcore elements that you would expect from a band like this, but it is done with enough nuance and originality behind it that it makes it stand out from the ever-growing metalcore sound. There are some great atmospheric elements going on, there's the occasional proggy riff going on, and as you may have guessed, it's genre bending that has me excited. It's rooted in metalcore, but it's when it's not just the chugs and the breakdowns is when you find that sweet spot that this band has to offer. Especially for a debut album, this album has a lot to offer that you would not expect, from impeccable production to the excellent songwriting. I can't wait to see where this band goes from here because they are on the right track to make a true name for themselves. Now we have Revengin with Dark Dogma Embrace. It's been 13 years since the debut album from this Brazilian band, but they are finally back with a new lineup and keeping that strong sense of gothic symphonic metal. While the production on this one is a bit raw, it adds to the emotion of it all, and it may pull you in that much more because of it. The songwriting on display hits hard and it goes into so many great territories. The vocal display on hand is an incredible thing to hear. I can hear the likes of After Forever, Tristania, and yeah, some Epica thrown in as well, but it goes so much deeper than that. It's a dark album that sucks you in and doesn't stop till it's over. This is another example of how symphonic bands should be praised for actually maintaining their symphonic sound. Give this one a proper chance if you dig the style. I think you'll be won over. Now we have Seven Sisters with Shadow of a Fallen Star, Part 2. The fourth album from this long-running UK band encapsulates everything that I want out of a revival metal band in 2025. A band that knows how to give that new wave of British heavy metal sound, but does not make it their whole identity. The band explores a lot of great nuances of progressive metal, atmospheric space moments, and that right blend of classic metal and power metal that makes everything very refreshing to hear. While this is my first foray into the band, I will be going back and checking out everything else they have to offer, as this is an incredible album that will stick with you, and I need more of that. The songwriting feels like a pure soundtrack with its highs, lows, heavy moments, softer moments, and earworm hooks that leave you hearing it in your head for days. The production is nice and punchy, but still has a vintage vibe to it all. Everyone on display here is showing off what they are capable of for its style, and it's miraculous work. This is an album that should not go under the radar if you enjoyed the style of classic metal of yore, but want it updated just enough not to sound like a clone. This is how it's done, folks. And finally today we have Symmetry Was Never an Option with Scientist. The third album from this Polish band is a shocking display of how prog can be made in the 2020s. So much prog nowadays just focus on the down-tuned guitars, the genty riffs, and of course the breakdowns. And this band does harken back to a time where you didn't need all of that. But don't get it twisted. If you're looking for that progressive metalcore genty sound, that is here on display. But rather than it just being a genty progressive metalcore album, this is a progressive metal album. It hits on the more melodic side of things, it goes into some post-rock elements I didn't see coming, some electronic moments that couldn't have fit better. It feels like a great mix of Devin Townsend, The Contortionist, Haken, and the occasional Meshuggah moment. I wish bands were doing more albums like this instead of just trying to be as heavy or as off the wall as possible. You can be proggy and melodic, but you can also be memorable at the same time. It's been done before, and it can be done again. While I know this won't be up everyone's alley when it comes to this style, I still highly recommend giving this one a shot because it was quite the welcome surprise for me, and it just might be for you as well. First up, we have And Oceans with the Regeneration Itinerary. And Oceans is a band that never rested on their laurels throughout their entire career, and the band sets out to forge a new path with every album that they release. And with their seventh album, they've proven that fact once again. With their Regeneration Itinerary, it feels like the band is rejuvenated and set out to create some music that they've never created before, all while having some familiar sounds to it. The band continues their symphonic black metal sound, but have added some nice healthy doses of industrial, gothic, and experimental moments in just the right spots to recreate a quite refreshing sound. The production fits the chaos surrounding the music, and the songwriting is inspired beyond belief. Whether this combination will work for you or not is up to your judgment, but I love how the band has gone back in time and also forged a new chapter in their sound at the same time. It can be jarring at times, but by the second listen it will feel natural and feel like it's supposed to be there, while at other times it fits like a glove from the moment that you hear it. The band has produced another fantastic album, and in 2020 2025, we need an album that continues to push the boundaries of what extreme music can be. This does all of that and so much more. Next we have Sarisian Velat with Unman. Sadly, the demise of Ghost Brigade in 2020 meant the band went their separate ways to create their own musical paths, but 4/6 of the band wanted to keep creating music together and enlisted Ville and Panu into the band, and Sarisian Velat was born. The band is not Ghost Brigade 2.0, they are their own band that has their own original sound to it, but they do have very much of that broader territory with more of the post-rock, post-metal that Ghost Brigade started exploring in their later albums, but now they've also incorporated some more alternative rock and progressive elements as well. The music is also all in Finnish, so even though I don't understand the language, I love the vocal melodies on display, and they perfectly fit the music on hand. The band is doing things completely DIY here. The band is doing almost everything on their own, from the production to the media to everything else that a band needs to stay viable in 2025. This is the best possible outcome for this band who wanted to stay together and keep writing the music that inspires them, and we are better off for it. While you won't be getting any screams or growls on this one, the music doesn't really call for it. This is a gothic tinged progressive post-rock album done in all the right ways, and it keeps getting better on every listen. If you're intrigued by this notion at all, you should give this one a proper shot. Here we have Fragments of Unbecoming with Dawnbringer, Chapter 7, The Amber Emperor. 6 albums in this German band's career, and they are writing some of the best aggressive and inspired melodeath in 2025. This album is intense from beginning to end, whether it's full guns blazing or some mid-tempo stompers, but they have just the right amounts of melodies and harmonies thrown in when they're called for, but it never gets in the way of the heaviness that they want to show off. It's been 7 years since their last album, and the world has gone into a much darker place in that amount of time. So what a better album to put on than this one. If you enjoy the likes of the Black Dahlia Murder, Night Rage, Hypocrisy, this is a band that you need on your radar. From that classic 90s sounding production style to the songwriting that fits the mold of the more aggressive side of melodeath, Fragments of Unbecoming has put out a ferocious melodeath album that is sure to shake up the genre for a long time to come. This is some stellar work. Here we have Moonlight Haze with Beyond. The 4th album in this Italian symphonic power metal band, featuring past and present members of Elven King, Temperance, and more bands, is such a quality album of the genre. So much of the album feels like it hits back on that classic era power metal of the late 80s through the early 2000s, with some classic heavy metal vocals on one end and some mesmerizing operatic vocals on the other, all done by their vocalist Chiara Carico. My apologies for your last name pronunciation. The production fits that mold as well, and the songwriting on display is just that sweet spot of hitting everything that you love about symphonic power metal in just the right ways. This is easily for anyone who likes Nightwish, Delane, Early Day Beyond the Black, and more. This is a killer release for the genre, and it makes me so happy to see a symphonic power metal album coming from a symphonic power metal fan. If you love the genre, you need to hear this one from Moonlight Haze. Here we have Senna with Stranger to Love. The debut album from this German outfit hits everything that is catchy and accessible to the 2020s heavy music scene, all while incorporating so much more. Yes, this band easily fits among the likes of Bring Me the Horizon, Asking Alexandria, Leave, one of my favorite bands of 2025 so far, and others, but they also add their own spin to it all, adding elements of post-rock, modern progressive metal, and more. No two songs sound alike on this one, and that's what makes the album such a treat to get through, especially on that first time listen, when you just don't know what's coming next. Honestly, yeah, this is one of the lightest albums that I've covered in a while, and that is also what makes the album so refreshing to me. While it is so catchy and accessible, it also doesn't sound like any other band that I can really pinpoint. I can pinpoint ones who might enjoy it, but they don't sound like those bands. This is how you innovate a genre that is so radio friendly, but you don't need to be a copycat. You just need to be yourself. That's exactly what Senna is doing here, and I'm excited to see where they go from here. Of course, this won't be for everyone who checks out my reviews, but if you need a break from all the funeral doom, mathcore, and progressive metal that is coming down the pipeline, especially coming up, give this one a proper listen and see what the mainstream is doing in 2025. Here we have Thus Spoke Zarathustra with I Am Done With Self-Care, It's Time for Others' Harm. The sophomore album from this Maryland deathcore band is my kind of deathcore, meaning it's not just relentless blast beats, pig squeals, and breakdowns. Granted, all of that is in this music, but it does so much more than that. It harkens back to a time when deathcore just started evolving into the genre that it could be, meaning there will be hits of more progressive moments, more melodic and harmonic moments, even more metalcore riffs riffs on occasion. It appreciates the past, but it innovates for the future. It's also an album that is a concept album that I won't divulge into here, but it gets pretty grim and it hits the right moments at the right times. The production isn't too polished or overproduced, but it still hits every note that you would hope that it would. Again, this is my kind of deathcore where it is so much more than the initial start of the genre, and it's all the better for it. This is a band that you need to look out for if you enjoy the genre, or even if you don't, this might be the band to get you into it. If you want another concept album from a deathcore band, like what Whitechapel did earlier this year, give this band your attention and see if it does what you want in your deathcore. And here's Where Waters Mingle with their self-titled debut. While this one technically came out this past Monday, I'm still counting it here. I don't have a lot of info on this one as I discovered it through my daily scrounging of new album releases and stumbled upon this one, and I was instantly intrigued by this Montreal band. It is a band that is so layered in progressive metal, but it hits the extremes of death metal, melodeath, and tech death at the same time. It never goes too long into any of those genres, and it hits that sweet spot of the slower to mid-tempo moments for most of the album that feels so satisfying, all while turning up the intensity in tailor-made ways to grab your attention. The production hits that fine line between raw and polished, which should make anyone who checks out this very, very happy. And the songwriting has so many twists and turns that keep your attention from beginning to end. If you want a mix of prog, tech death, melodeath, and simply extreme metal, you should give Where Waters Mingle your full attention. This Montreal band is soon to be going places as soon as people discover this album. I hope this will be the catalyst to get them the recognition that they deserve. And now for all the albums that I've missed, starting off with Akorantes, which I think is how you pronounce it, but I also do have it in English and in Greek in the description, so hopefully it's right. With Nekaira, The Necromantic Patterns. 10 albums in the last 18 years is no easy feat, but this Greek black metal band has put out killer album after killer album every single time. They have been a band that explores the deepest recesses of what black metal is in its darkest form, and on their 10th album, they have perfected it. This is one of the darkest black metal albums I've heard in a very long time, and it truly feels like a trip through hell. This is as unholy as it is cryptic in all the right ways. From the black metal screams to the haunting cleans that show up, which feel even more sinister, mix all of that with the musical backdrop of spectacular songwriting and perfect production for the style, and you have an album that is sure to stand the test of time. If you enjoy the likes of Nightbringer, or if you want to hear what Tane could sound like if they actually had good production, this is more than worthy of your time. Turn out the lights, light one candle, and feel the darkness consume you. Next, we have Ancient Bards with Artifacts. Ancient Bards returns with their 5th album. The Italian symphonic metal band is doing some incredible work here with some of their hardest hitting songs to date, but songs that have gone from full guns blazing. They also have songs that are absolute tearjerker ballads. It feels like the track listing is about 3/4 heavy and 1/4 ballads, but it's that combination that truly works. This is easily some of the band's best work to date and some of the most emotionally gripping albums that I've heard in quite a long time. With pristine production, this album shines in the darkest and lightest of ways. I will admit, I understand why people won't like the ballads on this one. It does have a layer of cheese that you just can't separate from them, but I love cheese, and I'm just not one of those people. I love what they're doing here. They perfectly fit the mold and are a great counterbalance to all the heaviness that the rest of the album brings. This is one of the true standout albums of symphonic metal in 2025. If you love the genre, you are doing yourself an injustice by missing out on this one any further. Put it on and enjoy. Here we have Anthropomorphia with Devoid of Light. Missing the boat on this one last week, much to my dismay. Stuff happens, I apologize for missing this one. This is the latest from this long-running death metal band that I love so near and dear. The 6th album from this band, with a good break in between, has been pushing themselves harder and harder since their return in 2012, and is made for a band that has been improving with every single release. Devoid of Light is more than lives up to the name, as this album goes either full-on old-school death metal or hits close to Death Doom territory, leaving you with no joy in the best possible way, of course. The production is just slick enough to give you that punchy feel, but it makes everything sound so much more brutal. If you love the likes of Grave, Bloodbath, Gorefest, etc., and if you've never checked out Anthropomorphia, you don't have an excuse anymore. Give this one your full, proper attention, and hear one of the best displays of old school death metal done in 2025. Next, we have Bella Mimir with Nocturne. In what sounds like a true celebration of what doom metal can be, Bella Mimir has released their debut album, and this is the exact type of doom that I live for. It can hit the early days of epic doom metal, started by the likes of Candlemass and perfected a little bit more with Cathedral. It hits into the deeper, darker funeral doom style of bands like Ahab, and it turns around a mix for some of the most emotional riffs in the genre this side of Pallbearer. It hits them all, and it all feels authentic and heartbreaking. The songwriting is pain-inducing in the ways that you want from the style, mixed with just a polished enough production style that leaves the realness and the rawness intact. It's an emotional trip, and it grabs my heartstrings every single time I put it on. If you want a crash course in what this side of doom is all about, not the stoner side, not the Sabbath side, this style doom, Bella Mimir may have put out one of the best doom albums of 2025. It's still early, but it's gonna be so hard to top. Now we have the Callous Cowboys with I Don't Want to See You in Heaven. This is album of the year potential through and through from this Georgia mathcore band. I just really gave them a chance this year, and I'm so very glad that I did. It's Zappa meets Dillinger Escape Plan meets 2000s emo and post-hardcore all rolled into one. They are a band that hits all of the styles of music that helped shape my musical listening outside of metalcore, prog, and all these other styles. From the band's third album, the band has gone in so many different directions, but they still may have put out their catchiest and most accessible album to date. The wackiness is still here, you still hear those Zappa aspects going on, but it is matched with songs that feel like it's that perfect 2000s MTV2, the rock, emo, post-hardcore that you heard right before Headbangers Ball, if you know what I'm talking about. You hear African beats, you hear samba beats, you hear R&B, all mixed with blast beats, mathcore breakdowns, and emo stylings. It's something that sounds like an absolute mess on paper, and for some people, that's exactly what it is. But for people like me, I need an album that hits all these elements of bands and genres that I love, done in an authentic way that you just have to listen to understand. You may never get it, but for me, it instantly clicked. And I will just say, if you want to hear a one-of-a-kind album from a one-of-a-kind band, give the Callous Cowboys a spin or two and see if it works for you. Whether you've found your new favorite discovery or a band that you'll hate forever, I think it's worth the risk to give them a try. Here we have Dead End Scene with Mind Over Matter. The debut album from this Finnish band hits all the right elements of sound that grab my attention. It can get as mainstream and as modern as bands that you hear on the radio for the 2020s. It also hits elements of rock and metal that you simply don't expect. The vocals have just enough grit to them without sounding too aggressive or clean. The music behind it all is proggy without sounding like a progressive band. The production is crystal clear. Imagine a band like Whom Gods Destroy without all the prog wankiness behind it all, and trading it all for a more mainstream sound. That's the best description I can give for the band. There's probably a better one, but that's what I think of it anyways. This is such a great mix of rock and metal made for the 2020s. It's fun to listen to from start to finish, and it just feels endlessly catchy for someone who wants more than just 3 chords in a song. If you're looking for something like this, or if it just sounds intriguing to you at all, I implore you to give this one a chance and see if it's for you. I couldn't have been more pleasantly won over. And you just might be as well. Next up, we have Deep Sun with Storyteller. 4 albums in 9 years from this Swiss symphonic metal band, and they sound as fresh now as they did in the beginning. Hitting all the right aspects of the symphonic sound without sounding like a carbon copy of any particular band is a hard thing to pull off in this style, but it is done with such authentic songwriting and the soaring vocals of Deborah Lavignolo, which I hope I pronounced your name right. While this is that genre through and through, it's done in such a way that makes me so happy that the genre is coming back so strong in 2025. The band is not afraid to be symphonic, and symphonic metal is not afraid to be symphonic anymore. If you dig the likes of Visions of Atlantis, Xandria, and Revengeance, check out Deep Sun and enjoy the symphonic wonders in front of you. Next, we have Echo Soul with Time of the Dragon. The sophomore album from this predominantly Indiana band is pure progressive power metal through and through, and I wouldn't want it any other way. It hits as heavy as thrash, and it gets into just the right amount of proggy elements, but that power metal is the focal point of the band. It's done expertly, and with help of Rob Lundgren, also of the band Mentalist, who I just covered this month, is fronting this band as well, doing a spectacular display of vocals. This is a band that should be playing every prog power-centric festival around the world, and maybe even the non-power prog power festivals out there. It's just made for everyone who loves the genres and wants it done just heavy enough. This is an album that should be in your repertoire going forward if you enjoy these styles. It's a stellar album that shows that the power of progressive power metal is alive and well. Here we have Helllight with We the Dead. It should be no surprise that a band that literally put out an album called Funeral Doom back in 2008, their sophomore album by the way, is continuing that style in 2025 with their 8th album. In short, this is everything that you expect from the genre, from the haunting keyboards to the dirge tempo, to the vocals that sound like a stone slab being lifted off a tomb. What makes it stand out is how it's created. It features clean vocals as well, it has twists on the genre formula in the songwriting that needs to be heard to understand, and the mood of the music is just that perfect tone for everyone who has ever loved Funeral Doom, both the album and the style of music. This is an album that will rip your heart and soul into pieces, and you may never be able to recover, and I wouldn't want it any other way. Again, simply put, if you love Funeral Doom, again the genre and the album, you need Helllight in your life. Here we have Category 5 with Awaken a New Age of Chaos. A brand new discovery for me is something that I wish I had in my life so much sooner. The 6th album from the Salt Lake City band is everything that I love about mid to late 80s metal rolled into one package. The music of Crimson Glory, the vocals of Queensryche, the prog of Fate's Warning, and the occasional thrash of Death Angel, especially everything from the Ultraviolence through Act 3. Mwah. This is a masterclass of that era, and I'm so happy that this is being performed in 2025. With a production that reminds me of that late 90s, early 2000s prog in just the right ways, and the songwriting that is just that sweetness to the ears, that is for anyone who wants that nostalgia trip but also wants it modernized just enough for the modern day. I can't sell it any better than that. If you love 80s prog with just a tad bit of 80s thrash, this one simply rules. Go check out Category 5. Here we have Letter Sent with Post Gravity. This is that early 2000s metalcore, post-hardcore sound done to perfection. It hits the right elements of both genres rolled into one, and it gives you that nostalgia factor that is hard to top if you're there for the ride. But it also is a great introduction for anyone who wants to venture into the sound. Maybe you didn't grow up with it, maybe you ignored it when it happened, but you should give it a shot. This German band couldn't be more proficient in their sound, and it hits the mix of heavy and emotional in a way that can send shivers down your spine. This is such an excellent display, from the songwriting to the performances to the production. This is the early 21st century in 2025, just updated slightly to fit that fact. This just hits the right chords for me, and if you love this sound, Letter Sent might do the same for you. Here we have Opia with I Welcome Thee, Eternal Sleep. I got to this one far too late, so I've been meaning to cover this one much sooner. About a month ago, actually, but I am so glad I'm doing it now. The debut album from this UK and Spanish band is that perfect gothic doom album that I've been waiting for all year. It has the keys of Typo Negative, the darkness of Draconian, the dynamics of Tristania, and everything that you love about gothic doom all rolled into one. The production is crystal clear while still sounding authentic. The songwriting is haunting, and the performance on display is top-notch to the nth degree. This is everything that makes gothic doom so wonderful throughout its history, and it feels like a true love letter to the genre while still forging its own path and creating a new name for themselves for the future. Put on your finest black attire, go to your local reworked cathedral, and blast this. I couldn't think of a better appropriate venue for this album and this band. What a magnificent display of what gothic doom should and can be. And finally, for brand new albums that I missed, here is Route Zero with Dark Rainbow. The sophomore album from this UK outfit is a brand new discovery for me, but a welcomed one. There is such a dark atmosphere to all of this, presenting a band that can hit the haunting sides of doom with just enough of an alternative edge, and it still leaves room for some prog metal throughout. It hits on so many levels and going in so many different directions, almost sounding concise in exactly what is called for song after song. It feels like a mix of Lacuna Coil, Typo, Exiled Hope, Catatonia, and even Carnival, which I was not expecting. Had I discovered this album and band in 2009, they would have been one of my favorite bands. But considering this is only their second album, I can't wait to see where they go from here and how much more they will progress and grow. This is a magnificent album that hits so many quirks while striking home with so many dark genres. If you think you might enjoy this, I guarantee that you will. Give it a go and prepare to be blown away. First up, we have Death Rattle with The Moral Chokehold. A description you don't often hear is a modern groove metal band from New Hampshire, but that is exactly what you get with Death Rattle and their brand new third album. It's been a bit since their sophomore album, which came out all the way back 8 years ago in 2017. I hate writing that phrase, time is going by way too fast, but this band has taken its time and they've perfected their sound into what is easily their best work to date. With an excellent production style, the band has taken their songwriting and refined it to make the style of groove metal that is so much more than the sum of its parts. It's a grand bland mix of bands like Crowbar and Lamb of God, and especially a new twist for the band Gojira. The band has found their mix of never going too fast or too slow, and the majority of the album hits this nice sweet spot of mid-tempo stompers that is so headbang-inducing from start to finish. This is an aggressive album that hits the anger of the state of the world in a way that you can really only do in this kind of style to make it work. If you dig modern groove metal, aka basically what Gojira has perfected for this genre, this is what you need in 2025. Next, we have Graceless with Icons of Ruin. The fourth album from this Netherlands-based death doom band is exactly what is called for in 2025. It's the perfect flow of never going full-on death metal assault, nor hitting the extreme slows of what doom metal can accomplish. It's that punishing slower to mid-tempo stylings for fans of Bolt Thrower, Asphyx, and Halo Bullets, and if you love that, you'll be foaming at the mouth over what you hear here. I would also say that this is a good pairing for the latest album from the band Sculpture, Land Creek, which I covered earlier this year. Man, that would be an incredible show to see. The production is very, very Bolt Thrower. It is raw, but it still feels quite punchy. The songwriting is very inspired and hits the niche of that death doom style expertly. If you love this style of death doom, look no further than Graceless. This is exactly how it should be done. Next up is Less DMV or Less Dimv, depending on your pronunciation, with Epitaph 2. Julien Loré of Lacrimas Profonde is back with his second solo album, and wow, this is one of the most emotionally gripping albums that you're going to hear in this style in 2025. Julien has this aura about him and knows how to hit you in ways that you just simply don't expect. While it is still very much in the gothic tinge of things, there's some more aggressive and hard-hitting stuff that almost gets in the black metal territory. There's some late 90s, early 2000s Finnish era goth sounds a la him, and especially Lacrimas Profonde, of course. And some songs are just Julien experimenting with his influences and finding a way to make every song as catchy, if not catchier, than the next. The production is just polished enough, but it still sounds real, and the overall vibe of the album just makes for an incredible listening experience. The album is connected to the previous Epitaph album, conceptually and lyrically, but rather than spilling the beans on what that's all about, you should just listen to both of them yourself and start to connect the dots. It's more fun that way. Especially when it comes to the more gothic-centric albums, this is easily one of the best so far in 2025, and I can't imagine what will top it. I've had this promo for so long it almost feels like a 2024 album to me, but every time I put it on, it still feels so fresh and so inspired. Exactly the way an album should feel when you put it on. Seriously, whether you are a diehard fan or just finding out about him now, give Julien a chance here with his latest from Less DMV. Hauntingly gorgeous from beginning to end. Now we have Low Before the Breeze with A Hole Below the Home We Shared. The debut album from this Atlanta trio is a whirlwind of emotions, and it's punishing from start to finish. Whether it goes into a full-on assault of fast black metal, or it hits more of the screamo era that you hear in the mid-90s to the mid-2000s, or going full-on into Boris and Merzbow stylings of their more harsh noise, the band has crafted a sound that is uniquely their own. It also helps that Andrew Spahn lent his voice to a track off the latest album from the Callous Cowboys, I Don't Want to See You in Heaven, Country Song in Reverse, doing some absolute fine work on that track, by the way. This is absolutely not an album for everyone, and will probably scare a lot of people off with this style of songwriting. While it's confined, you never truly know what's going to happen, even after several listens. The production goes from raw to blackened to almost overbearing at times, and the overall experience is definitely for a particular listener. But that's also part of the adventure. There are so many elements that I enjoy here, and with every listen, I discover more and more, and that's what a great album should do. Considering this is just their debut album, I can't wait to see where they go next and what gets introduced into their musical palette. If you are feeling saucy and you want to give this absolute extreme musical endeavor a taste, check out Low Before the Breeze and see if they become your new musical obsession. Now we have Needless with Premonition. 3 albums into their inception since 2004 shows that quality will always matter more than quantity, and that's what you get with their latest offering, Premonition. This is a band that hits on so many different levels of progressive death metal, a band that can go in and get into so many different musical directions, yet still have this way of sounding catchy and memorable. No matter your love of metal, you will find something to love here. The production reminds me of that mid to late 2000s era, while still sounding just modern enough. The songwriting turns more and more into an earworm the more that you listen, and I can hear so much of genres like melodeath, progressive metal, as I do 2000s thrash and groove and so many other elements that creates a sound that fits this band like a glove. If you want a band that can show your love of metal through and through, check out Needless. They are a band that is more than worthy of your attention. Next up, we have Rivers of Nile with their self-titled album. The fifth album from this long-running Pennsylvania band is coming out strong with their first non-conceptual album. There is a lot to like about this one. You can hear every era of the band that they've done so far, while still forging a new path in the process. If you love Where Owls Know My Name, there's songs like that on here. If you dig the early day tech death stuff, kind of like of the Conscious Seed of Light or even Monarchy, you're going to hear that here as well. But the band is forging forward with a new lineup, most notably Andy Thomas of Black Crown Initiate taking over on some guitar duties and clean vocals, and Adam Briggs actually stepping up and doing the screams and growls, and of course doing his continuous bass and songwriting. That is no easy feat to accomplish. While the band is continuing to forge their own path, there is going to be a particular song or two that I'm not going to gel with. I'll just go ahead and say a song like American Death is just not my bag. And if you know anything about me, you know why. But after a major lineup change and coming off a colossal 4-album conceptual suite, it is going to be a pure challenge to know where to go next, and for the most part, Rivers got it right, and they're going in the right direction. This is what that mid-2020 Rivers is going to sound like, and I'm ever so curious to see where they go next. Till then, let the self-titled release show where they are now, and they're proving that they are still here to stay. Next, we have Svart Vinter with Isvind. The sophomore album from this Italian black metal band is heavily inspired by the 90s Scandinavian black metal scene, and it's really a refreshing change of pace. While the weather is getting warmer, at least in my side of the northern hemisphere, it may feel strange to hear an album that feels this cold, dissonant, and haunting, but Svart Vinter knows what they are doing, and they have put out such a devastating piece of black metal. I love that so many members of this band is also in the band Veil of Conspiracy, another band that I covered earlier this year who put out one of my favorite albums so far this year, are showing off so much more of their musical palettes in another band. The production is raw but enjoyable. The songwriting hits so close to home for bands like Immortal, Niflheim, and Dissection, while other atmospheric moments of the band really makes this album feel a bit more cooled off and relaxed. Though I imagine winter comes again, this is going to feel ice frickin' cold to listen to. If you want one of the darkest displays of Scandinavian inspired black metal in 2025, you need to give Svart Vinter your full attention. They make this genre their own, and I love what I'm hearing. Here we have True North with Either Way, The Sun's Exploding. The sophomore album from this LA band hits a scratch that I needed to itch for quite a while. Growing up in my formative years in the 2000s, I loved hearing bands that hit what I call that MTV2 hard rock, alternative rock, post-hardcore emo. Basically all the music that was on before Headbangers Ball on Saturday nights. While I have so much more of an appreciation for that style now than I did back then, I still really enjoyed what I heard 20 plus years ago. I enjoy it more now. Hearing a band like True North show off that appreciation for that style of music, while still making it accessible for the 2020s crowd and adding their own herbs and spices to the music, makes it insanely catchy for the modern crowd as well, was such a smart thing to accomplish. I can hear as much Story of the Year and Taking Back Sunday and Thursday as I do bands like I Prevail, Beartooth, and if there is catchier moments to bring me the horizon, yeah, probably that too. Mixing the past and the present into an undeniably catchy mix of rock that should be plastered all over your local rock station and streaming playlists. The production is super polished and squeaky clean, and again, that songwriting is tailor-made for the modern day rock crowd. You can't be metal all the time. Give True North a listen if you have any interest in the past and present 21st century rock scene. You might be pleasantly won over. And finally, for brand new stuff out today, well, technically this one came out this past Sunday, but come on, it's still the same week, I think it still counts, is the fifth album from Volk with 5, or V, depending on your pronunciation. This is the fifth album in 5 years from this mellow black band from the Netherlands, and it's one of the finest examples of the genre I've heard in 2025. It feels like I just talked about this band, and that is because I did talk about them last year with their album 4. It's awesome to see them come back and write what is easily their best album to date, bar none. And also their vocalist, Yora K, is also the vocalist of the band Terzil, which I covered earlier this year, so needless to say, it's great seeing this duo keeping to be so busy and putting out such great music. But with 5, this is some of the best I've heard in the mellow black genre in a very long time. The production is simply perfect for the style, the songwriting couldn't be more inspired. I can only say so many great things about this album where you just need to hear it for yourself and not let me spoil any of it for you. If you need your mellow black in the best possible light, or darkness depending on your mood, you need to check out Volk. Seriously, you'll be doing yourself a favor. Sorry for that previous faux pas, this is the final album that I'll be covering for brand new albums out today. It is Wolves at the Gate with Wasteland, a band that I've heard so much about for a long time, but never actually checked them out until now, and I'm pleasantly surprised by what I'm hearing. Hearing a great mix of metalcore, modern metal, post-hardcore, and other elements to create a sound that hits hard, but it's also very catchy at the same time. Finding that balance to be accessible to everyone, no matter how heavy or poppy your rock and metal tastes are, is a tough thing to achieve, but this band pulls it off. I've also noticed this band is unabashedly Christian, which I don't hold against them at all. I listen to as much Behemoth as I do Neil Morse as I do Orphanland. It's the music that matters to me, with obvious exceptions that I shouldn't have to explain. I can hear bands like Memphis Mayfire, Savage Hands, and Anna's Okay all over this one, and I find that to be such a refreshing change of pace for my musical palette. It just feels really nice to let this one play out and hear that style of 2010s metalcore play out and updated in 2025. If that is your bag, you should give this one a proper listen and see if it's for you. I understand why it's not for everyone, but I dig it, and you might too. And now for everything that I missed along the way, starting off with the band Hell with The Way of Our Life. Hell's debut album is such a fantastic display of power and speed metal done with such an authentic and nostalgic twist. The production is a bit raw for the style, it kind of reminds me of the late 80s, early 90s style of power and speed metal, but they make it work to their advantage, and the songwriting feels just like this grand mix of X-Japan meets Freedom Call. It's a fun album experience from start to finish, and it hits so many tropes that I love about these genres. Speedy, melodic, and if I could speak English, this would be really fun to sing along to. 10 songs and almost 47 minutes of that special kind of power metal that just makes you smile from ear to ear. If I can't sell it with those words, nothing I say will. Just give this one a spin and enjoy. Next, we have Bent by Sorrow with Sakura. I was really blown away with this one. This Greek band's debut album, and 4th release overall, shows a band that has written some of the strongest material in this style that I've heard all year, of that alternative metal, groove metal, post-metal sound. It feels as mighty as Mutiny Within's self-titled album, which all came out all the way back in 2009, 2010. Wow, I can't believe it's been that long. With the songwriting and vocal performances to go along with that, but you just kind of remove some of the proggier elements for a band like Gojira, and you have a winning combination. Yeah, that's really a great way to describe this. Gojira meets Mutiny Within's first album. This is also such a sophisticated album throughout the entire album, and it just soothes the soul in a way that just feels right. It's just catchy enough for the alternative and hard rock crowd, just heavy enough for the more groove metal, almost metalcore sound, with just the faintest elements of prog, and you have a band that will go far if the right people hear it. If this sounds like something you would dig, believe me, you will. Give this one a proper listen and see what Bent by Sorrow can accomplish. It's incredible work. Next up, we have Conan with Violence Dimension. Sadly, I didn't get the promo for this one, and I just found out that this album was released, and I'm way behind on it, but I am glad that I am covering it now. The 6th album from this ultra-heavy band is hitting all the right notes of the style of doom that I love in this sludgy style. It gets that right mix of sludge into their doom, and it mixes it all together to create this winning formula that they've been crafting for 13 years now. While no two Conan albums are dramatically different from each other, when you do listen to them, you can hear the progression on each one. Here, you can hear more tempo variations, style change-ups, and this overall sense of glory? Yeah, glory. This feels like the kind of album that you put on to help motivate you. Maybe get more of a sense when you hear the lyrics on this one, especially for this style. But this is an album that is determined to help you slay all the demons of your life, both the ones in front of you and the ones within yourself. I can't think of anyone who doesn't need that kind of motivation in 2025. Obvious noted exceptions. And when I put it on, it just makes all the sense in the world to me to try to destroy the challenges that are ahead of me and crush everything in my path that's holding me down. Conan continues to refine and improve on every album. This is such an excellent example of what sludgy doom can and should be. What a great release. Here we have Cougar Toy Boy with Cougar Business. This is just a fun throwback to that late 70s through early 90s glam rock scene, just done in 2025. I hear everything from Sweet to Warren to Faster Pussycat and others in this perfect, earnest tribute to the genre, both tongue-in-cheek and, again, fully earnest. The production is a bit raw than you would expect, kind of like that early day Dawkins albums. The songwriting is exactly what you'd expect, from high-energy tracks to slower numbers to the stripper anthems that you would expect. All you need to do is hear a song like I've Got a Feeling, and you know 100% what this band is all about. Done to sturdy fun and debauchery style. And when it comes to that, what else could you possibly want? This is glam rock of 2025, and probably the most best tribute to it all that's gonna happen here. This is how it's done with Cougar Toy Boy. Here we have Destruction of Orion with States of Horror, the sophomore album from this Bulgarian project by Tahina Spazova. I hope I pronounced your name right, I apologize if I didn't. Doing everything in this band is already showing the promise and progression of what her debut album was that just came out last year, but just even more improved. While covering that album last year, I noticed I love her style of funeral doom and how it just fills this void that I needed in my life, that style of funeral doom. States of Horror takes all of that and just refines it and perfects it in this style that creates even more of an excellent blend of funeral doom with just the right amount of sorrow, dread, and oddly optimism that can only be explained if you listen to the style of music and understand the catharsis of it all. The production is very raw, but you hear every instrument as it should be, and every note is simply devastating. When you get into the lyrical content of it all, oof, this is a tearjerker. This is really what it feels like to have so much self-hatred, depression, and pure unadulterated despair. This is perfectly describes funeral doom in a nutshell. It's not the type of music that you put on and feel sad at a funeral. It feels like you're dying in all aspects of life. You're losing what you enjoy in life, the heartache that comes from continuing to live by losing eventually everything in some way, shape, or form, and the pain and anguish that comes with it all. That is not to say that you need to give up on life, not at all. That is saying that it feels really nice to hear a style of music that you can relate to if you're feeling this much pain, and that's the catharsis of it all. Again, this won't be for everyone, and I completely understand why some people would be turned off from listening to this style of music, especially if you want something that's a little more optimistic, or maybe you're just into happy party music. But this is so much deeper than a lot of bands could ever go for, and you can really feel her pain here, and it is so very, very relatable. If you need a good cry, if you need some good catharsis, or you simply just love the doom and gloom that comes from funeral doom, give Destruction of Orion your proper attention. It is one of the most sadly relatable albums of 2025, and it just might make you feel seen as well. Next we have Firmament with A New World, If You Can Take It. In what feels like a true transformation for the band, brothers Brandon and Eric Carbinia have gone through the ringer when it comes to making Firmament a band with true staying power. Returning as a pure duo, the band is here for their sophomore album, and it feels like such a dark rejuvenation that the band truly needed. This band hits so many elements I love in their sound. I've seen them described as post-metalcore, and that feels like such an apt description for the band. Metalcore elements mixed in with this post-hardcore and post-metal overlay, and it still hits a lot of modern progressive metal elements as well that makes everything continue to feel fresh and inspired. If you ever heard of a band that I've been touting for years called Head with Wings, this is a perfect pairing for this band, and that would be an incredible show to see sometime. The production is punchy and it hits in all the right ways, and the songwriting feels like it's hitting this level of purging that really needed to get out of their system in a healthy way. I hope the band is feeling the effects of that purge now, but that doesn't mean that I want them to turn into a pop band on the next album or anything, though I'm sure they could pull that off. This is just the perfect balance of heavy, catchy, emotional, all rolled into one, and it hits more and more on repeated listens. Give this one a shot if you're feeling adventurous. It's more than worth the trip. Next, we have Florian Grey with Beautiful Nightmares. What a wonderfully apt album title. The fourth album from this German goth band is the band that anyone who grew up in the late 90s, mid-2000s goth rock, gothic metal scene has been wanting for years and years. While this is my first foray into the band, they have been perfecting their own vision of the sound for 10 years now, and it's an incredible thing to see. It hits everything that you love about the genre, and adds just the right amount of their own influences to make them stand out from the rest, and create this dark, whimsical, and very captivating gothic landscape. Every song is ridiculously catchy, and the production behind it all couldn't be more appropriate. If you love him, Lacrimas Profunde, The Latter Day Sentenced, and Poison Black, or even bands like To Die For, you need Florian Grey. Here we have Panzer Ballet with what I hope I'll be pronouncing right, Ubercode Ouvre. I hope I got that right. 7 albums into this off-the-wall jazz metal band, and they continue to delight and confuse listeners. While I'm a month behind on this one, I am glad I'm getting to it now, as this hits the craving that I've been looking for in this style of music ever since I first discovered Panzer Ballet so many years ago. They are truly the metal embodiment of Zappa's instrumental work, be it their own original work, taking on legendary classical pieces, covering everything from their own interpretations of Zappa to ABBA to The Simpsons, and everything else under the sun. Panzer Ballet is the definition of making the music that you want to make, and nothing will ever steer them from that. On this album, they continue to innovate with their own songs, also covering Beethoven, Meshuggah, and Planet X, and other bonkers moment that is just so hard to wrap your mind around, yet it all makes sense in context. This is in no way for everyone, and you'll find your own definition of this band, from the most innovative and inspired band to ever be, to the most pretentious. Oddly enough, all of that fits, but above all, they're a musician's band, and I will always love them for that. If you dare, go check out Panzer Ballet. Next up, we have Pelican with Flickering Resonance. Pelican returns with their 7th album and their first since 2019, and they have been so sorely missed in that time. Arguably my favorite instrumental post-metal, post-rock band, Pelican have found a way of hitting those heavy riffs with such heavy emotions every single time, without ever saying a word, and they pull it off with such ease, or at least they make it sound like it's done with such ease. This is such a cathartic album for the genre that has desperately needed the likes of Pelican for 8 years now, and having them back in top form, from the phenomenal production to the gripping songwriting to the overall atmosphere that only they can achieve. I can't say enough great things about this one. It's an absolute pleasure to listen to it time and time again. If you need an introduction into the genre, I can't recommend Pelican enough to be able to start off your journey. Simply put this on, close your eyes, and drift away from the tones that they present. This is how you do the genre right. Thank you for coming back. I know you never left, but we needed you, and we needed new music in that time, so I truly appreciate some new music from you guys. And finally, for brand new albums for Out Today and What I Missed, I have Sylvanshine with The Offering. Wow, one of the shining examples of how to do the post-black, black gay genre done with justice. The debut album from this Romanian band is everything that I love about black gaze and post-black, with vocals that couldn't be more appropriate. Instead of the black metal shrieks that you tend to hear in this genre, they're closer to that mid-range, heavy style that's almost death metal, and that helps the band set themselves apart from others in the genre. I'm not sure who did the artwork, but everything else on this album is done by Ian Uric, which I think is how you pronounce it, and it sounds like a full band that has been playing for over a decade. The production is done with that right kind of raw, but still emotionally driven. The songwriting is completely from the heart, and it hits in a way that I simply was not expecting. And again, those vocals might be the true selling point of the album. This is a contender for Black Gaze Post-Black Album of the Year, and I mean that in every sense of the phrase. This is how you do the genre your own way and truly make it your own. If you don't believe me, just put this one on for yourself. I think you're going to be won over if you enjoy the genre.